Emily Chan, co-founder of Sparkline, which bridges the gap between passions and careers, and a talent sourcer at Microsoft. Please welcome Emily Chan.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here today. Um, my name is Emily, and I am, as you mentioned, a talent sourcer at Microsoft and the co founder of Sparkline. So, Sparkline is an initiative that my friend and I created last, I'd say, like June or July. And we noticed a lot of people were either getting their job offers or internship offers rescinded because of COVID. And so we wanted to help out and give back to the community. So Sparkline is dedicated to helping young professionals advance in their careers. We noticed this need for um, helping other people condense this job search process and just navigating what it means to be a young professional. And so we aim to provide practical tips for increasing productivity, adopting a growth mindset, and really bringing your authentic self to whatever it is that you're working on. So, a little bit more about me. I am currently based in Seattle, Washington, so it's only 5 p.m. for me here today. I graduated last May from Rutgers University, which is in New Jersey. It's actually where I grew up, where I'm from. And so moving to Seattle was a huge change for me, but I'm really enjoying it so far. If anyone is in Seattle in the future, feel free to let me know and we can grab coffee or something. Talent source at Microsoft, as we talked about, and the co founder of Sparkline. So I'm super excited to be talking about personal branding today. It's a topic that has resonated with me throughout my personal journey to Microsoft, as well as to really starting Sparkline. And it's still something that I'm working on. So it's definitely a topic that I'm really invested in. So on tonight's agenda, we'll be talking about what exactly is personal branding, and then we'll cover the 4 steps to developing your own personal brand, and then wrap up the workshop with an open Q&A. So what exactly is personal branding? There's so many different definitions that are floating out there, but it's how you market yourself to others. It's your unique value proposition, and it's really your story. It's what makes a potential employer hire you, and it's what makes other people invest in you, and it's how you exceed qualifications and expectations of other people and of job descriptions. Um, but most importantly, it's about how you make people feel. Are they motivated by you? Are they inspired by you? What are some thoughts that come to their head when they interact with you or think of you? If you haven't done so before, try doing a Google search for your name. What do you find about yourself? And does what you find really represent who you are and what you want other people to see? So when I did this exercise, it was really hard to find anything about me because there are so many people with the same name as me who are doing so many different things and really establishing their personal brand. And so that motivated me to really learn how to develop my own voice, develop my own personal brand, and try to showcase myself in a way that represents my values and who I am. And so that's how I became so invested in this topic of personal branding. If you haven't Googled yourself before, highly recommend doing it and seeing what you can find about yourself, especially in this day and age where everything is virtual. It's so important to establish your digital presence. This is a quote that I really like by Tom Peters. He's a management consultant and a writer. He says, regardless of age, regardless of position, regardless of the business we happen to be in, all of us need to understand the importance of branding. We are CEOs of our own companies, Me Inc. To be in business today, our most important job is to be head marketer for the brand called You. I personally never thought about myself as a company. But this was a really interesting quote for me to read because, as someone who is interested in entrepreneurship in business, it was really, really unique to think of myself, something that something that's so personal to me. It's myself, but to think of that from a business perspective and think about how I can market the value that I'm providing to other people. It was a big shift for me. And then After that, I really try to be strategic about the way I am marketing myself and I am presenting myself to other people. Okay, so the team and I at Sparkline broke down developing your personal brand into 4 simple steps. The first one is discovery, then it's development, communication, and then maintenance. So the process here is shown as a linear process, but I wanted to point out that this is actually a cyclical process, and I'll talk more about this later. First off, step one is discovery. So within this first step, there's two different parts. The first one is gathering internal insights from yourself and then gathering external insights from other people. When you're really trying to figure out who you are and what you stand for, some of the questions you can ask yourself are: what are my goals, values, and passions? What motivates me? What am I good at? And these are really hard questions to answer. It's hard to really think about what you stand for as a person and what your beliefs and values are. So, really be intentional about this and set time to do it. I take some time, 30 minutes to 1 hour every quarter, and really sit down with myself and see if my answer to these questions have changed throughout the year. It's a really great way to reorient myself and make sure that I'm still presenting myself in a way that I want to be present or that I want to be seen. And it helps me stay on track of my personal goals. Okay. And so the second part of discovery is gathering feedback from others. Some questions you can ask other people are: how would you describe me? How do I help you and others? And when you're gathering insights from other people, you want to make sure that you use the 360-degree feedback method, which is where you gather feedback from everyone around you and not just one very specific group of people like your friends and your family. It's really important that you gather feedback from everyone around you, everyone you interact with, because you want to be able to see yourself in your entirety, see yourself in the different situations that and the different interactions that you're in. I'm sure the way you interact with one person is different, or one group of people is different from how you interact with another group of people. So it's super important to make sure that the feedback you gather is not is as what's the word is as whole as it can be. This can be a little bit awkward if other people have constructive criticism to offer or constructive feedback. And so, one method that I found personally useful is to send out or create a form that has a couple of questions, kind of like a survey where you can send to other people and they can answer it anonymously to help you gather this feedback. Or if it's something you're comfortable with, feel free to just have these candid conversations with people. I typically prefer just having those candid conversations. I think it leads to really interesting follow up questions. And it really helps you really tweak your personal brand when you can ask those follow up questions. So I know we're only on step one, and I know it sounds like a lot of work already, but you're the most important asset you have, and you want to make sure you invest in yourself first. So other people, like the people around you, potential employers, potential investors, can invest in you as well. So the second step to your personal brand is development. First, you want to identify your target audience. Who exactly are you trying to reach? Is it your professors? Is it recruiters? Or is it your peers? And then, based on who your target audience is, you want to cater your message to them. The way you speak with your professors is completely different, I'm sure, from the way you speak to your friends or your family. And so it's really important to make sure that you keep your target in mind, your target audience in mind when you are developing your personal brand and how you communicate with them. For me, when I started Sparkline, I knew my target audience would be my peers, really college students or also other recent grads who are entering the workforce. And so the way I communicate with these people on social media through Sparkline would be a lot different than if I was communicating with people who were already 10 years into their careers. And so because I keep my target audience in mind, we try to incorporate more personal or personable content, like including memes about the job search or memes about working in corporate America. And so we found that through these memes and through using a lighter tone of communication, we're able to relate to our audience better. So it's super important to identify your target audience. Next, you want to define your strengths and your weaknesses. And I really like to do a SWOT analysis. So, for those of you who aren't familiar, a SWOT analysis is a strategic planning technique that organizations use to help identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats related to business projects. In the case of personal branding, the project is yourself. Um, a personal example for me. So, one of my strengths would be my behind the scenes knowledge of the recruiting process. As a talent sourcer for Microsoft, I know how it is to recruit for a big company. And so that would be an area of strength for me. An area of weakness would be my lack of focus. And when I say lack of focus, I mean I want to do so many different things at once, and I can spread myself a little too thin. An area of opportunity when you take my strength of the knowledge of the recruiting process and you combine that with my love for social media, that is how Sparkline runs. With this knowledge and my passion for social media, it's how we communicate with our audience and keep the content churning out. We're able to continue providing this consistent stream of content to bring value to other people and accomplish our mission at Sparkline. On the other hand, a threat would be because I do want to do so many different things at once, I can spread myself a little bit too thin. So instead of succeeding at one thing, I will fail at everything that I try to dabble in. And so bringing that back to Sparkline, we had a lot of conversations about which channels of communication we want to pursue, whether it be Instagram, LinkedIn, all the different social medias, even Clubhouse, if anyone's on that. Um, and so, of course, we want to capitalize on all the different channels that are available, but it can be very hard to succeed in all of them. And so, that was definitely something we struggled with a lot as we were building up our brand. And we took a step back and realized that this was going to be a big threat to us if we try to spread ourselves too thin and not focus on one particular area. And so, because of doing a SWOT analysis, not only for Sparkline, but also for myself, we realized that we just didn't have the capability of spreading ourselves to so many different channels. And so, we decided to focus mainly on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. So I highly recommend doing a SWOT analysis for yourself and any ventures that you might be taking on. It's so helpful and puts things into perspective, shows you what areas you need to work on and what areas you're already excelling in. And then the last part of development is understanding your mission or your why. Why do you do what you do and who do you do it for, which goes back to your target audience? Is a story mission template that I really like. It says, my story is dedicated to blank, this is where you fill in your target audience. So it can help them, and this is your mission or your end goal, and make them feel. And so this last part is something I really wanted to pay attention to. In the earlier slide, we mentioned personal branding is all about how you make other people feel. And so this last part of the story mission is so important to keep in mind. What is this feeling that you're trying to curate for other people? For Sparkline, as the co founder of Sparkline, my story mission is dedicated to young professionals so it can help them understand their strengths and make them feel empowered in their careers. Um, we know how confusing and frustrating the job search process and your first job out of college can be. And so it's easy to feel small and intimidated. And so through Sparkline, we're really trying to curate this feeling of empowerment and let young professionals and people who are early in their career know that it's okay to feel the way you do and you're not alone, but letting them understand where they excel and what their strengths are so that they can take control of their careers and feel empowered. So, this is another exercise that I highly recommend you trying for your own personal brand for any ventures you might be taking on. It really puts things into perspective and it helps when you are feeling a little bit unmotivated. Your story mission is really what keeps you going, what keeps you motivated. Okay, step three is communication. So there are two different ways of communication. The first one is tangible. So I highly recommend having a website if you are in the creative field or if you are working on something on the side. It's really a really great way to put everything that you're working on, consolidate it all in one space. So this can be hosted on tons of different websites or tons of different platforms like WordPress, Wix, and Squarespace that make it really, really easy to manage. I recently started my own personal website because I was inspired by this book that I read and I wanted to document my journey as a 20-something-year-old who recently started a new job in a new city, a new graduate. And so I wanted to develop my personal brand outside of Sparkline, outside of Microsoft, because those can be easily taken away. You want to be able to establish your personal brand outside of the work you do. You are more than the work that you do. And this is something that I recently came to terms with. It was so easy to just describe myself as just a talent sourcer for Microsoft. I'm a Microsoft employee, but at the end of the day, you're really only working for yourself. You're not working for these big companies or any other company. And so it's really important to establish your personal brand and not just hang on to the name of a company. And so I found it really therapeutic to be able to put my own personal brand out there and share my journey as a 20-something-year-old in a new city as a new graduate. Another great way to communicate your personal brand is through LinkedIn. Um, LinkedIn can be a really great place, but it can also be a not so great place, especially if you're in the job search and you're still trying to find a job and you see so many different people posting about how they recently landed a job. It can make you feel a little bit bad about yourself, and that's completely fine. I think LinkedIn is a really great place to share what you are learning um, about your classes, about your job search process. It can be a space where you share your stories and what you're learning to motivate other people as well, and also just to document your own personal and professional journey. Um, I've seen some people commit to posting content regularly, and because of that, they were able to build their following on LinkedIn. And through that, they got a lot of passive opportunities. So, personally, for me, I got my job at Microsoft because of LinkedIn. So, a recruiter had actually reached out to me through LinkedIn, told me about the opportunity, and I applied. If I wasn't active on LinkedIn, if my LinkedIn wasn't updated, I would not have been able to receive that passive opportunity. And so I'm a huge proponent for communicating your personal brand on LinkedIn, especially because it is a professional website. And so it's a really great place to establish yourself as a thought leader and build your credibility in the space, whichever space you are in. A question you can ask yourself as you're developing your content for LinkedIn is, how can my content help and inform others while generating meaningful discussions? And so I know a lot of people might feel like they have nothing to share or nothing to add, but even small things like sharing a helpful or interesting article or video, or even a book that you read can be very helpful and generate a lot of really great discussion with other people who might be interested in the same things or are in the same space. You can also recap a workshop or a networking event like this one. If you do, tag me, tag Sparkline. That's a really great way to show others that you're investing in your growth, investing in um, your knowledge, and trying to become a better version of yourselves when you are attending these workshops and learning as much as you can. Um, Another thing you can post is what you learned from a class project or even working on an event for a club. So these are all things that you're already doing. Might as well share them on LinkedIn and show other people what you are learning through your own professional journey. Okay. Another avenue to communicate your personal brand is through social media. It's a really great way to connect with people and build a community with the same interests. And so that's what we're really trying to do with Sparkline, not only helping others, but building a community of people who are going through the same situations and can relate to other people. So it's a really great way to connect with other people. And last but not least, you can communicate your personal brand through your resume. An important thing to point out about writing your resume is that when you are talking about your experiences, you want to talk about your impact and not just your responsibilities. Those responsibilities that you have for each individual role are things that can show up on anyone else's resumes as well. But what will make you different and what will make you stand out is your impact. How did you create impact in the role that you were in? Did you drive up sales? Did you recruit X amount of people? And this impact that you're making is your personal brand, it's your story. And so it's really important to include not only what you're doing day to day, but also how you created impact overall. And this is not only just for your professional experience, but also for your leadership experience in various organizations and clubs on campus as well. So throughout your resume, make sure you're talking about your impact because that is what will make you stand out and communicate your personal brand. The second way of communication is intangible. So these are things like your appearance, interpersonal interactions, your personality, your values. So communication happens all the time, and intangible occurs when you're not actively communicating. So you want to be aware of the subconscious message you're sending to other people. How do people describe you when you're not in the room? And so this all goes back to this intangible communication. Ask yourself, does my general appearance, does the way I speak, does the way I treat others represent what I want to be known for? And if the answer is no, then don't be afraid to make a change. And to wrap it all up, the last step in the process is maintenance. So it's so important to be consistent and stay on brand. Um, This ties into posting regularly, whether it be on LinkedIn, if that's your choice, or your website, anything. Um, and it providing the steady stream of content online documents your growth and personalizes your journey for your audience. So it's important that if you do choose to post online, you are posting regularly and also posting content that resonates with your personal brand that you're trying to curate. You also want to gather feedback periodically and be agile based on the feedback that you get. So you're not only going to gather these external insights in the beginning as you are developing your personal brand, but it's really a constant process. You're constantly growing, and so should your personal brand. You can still be consistent in your values and what you represent, but there can be slight nuances to how you deliver that. And so that is where the feedback will come in handy. Um, Once again, send out, seek feedback from others, use the 360-degree feedback method when you are in the process of maintaining and changing your, not changing, but really adjusting your brand. Um, Something I learned from one of my entrepreneurship professors back at Rutgers is that you should always be in beta mode. You should always be changing and improving and being a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. So, this is something that has always stuck with me since I think this was my sophomore year of college. Honestly, the only thing I learned in school. But this was such a game changer for me because I always thought I had to have everything figured out. I needed to have my job figured out. I needed to have my major figured out and my personal brand figured out. But that is not true. We're always in beta mode. So we're always changing and becoming better. So make sure you're always seeking feedback from other people and also looking inside too. Like I mentioned, I sit down every quarter with myself, ask myself those questions. Did my goals change? Am I on the right path? And so it's really important to just take a step back and do some maintenance once in a while. So at Sparkline, we're always changing. I don't know if anyone has followed us before, but when we first started, we used to be called CEO Mindsets, and our brand colors were completely different. Our logo was completely different. And so it was a really big change for us. We asked our audience, or we analyzed who our audience was. We asked our audience what they want to see, and we asked ourselves what we want to see and how we're representing our own personal brand through this overall bigger brand. And so, after gathering all that feedback and sitting in meetings with each other and just discussing what we want to see, we decided to pivot to include more content that resonates with who we are. When I say we, I'm talking about me and my co-founder. Um, so things like productivity, motivation, and also the psychology behind the job search process, in addition to those job search tips. And so it's so important to just be agile and not be afraid of change. I mentioned earlier that curating your personal brand is a cyclical process. Once you're at this maintenance stage, you're right back to the beginning where you're discovering yourself again and asking yourself those questions about your values, your goals, your passions, what you're good at. And then you're going back to development. So, this is a constant process throughout your entire life. And it's honestly something that will never be complete. So, remember, you're always in beta mode, always changing and improving. So, if there's one thing you remember from this workshop, let it be this: people don't remember what you do or what you say, they remember how you made them feel. Although your personal brand can change over time, the feelings behind your personal brand don't really change too much. These feelings are the driving force behind your personal brand. So at Sparkline, we're constantly asking ourselves, did we make them feel heard? Did we make them feel empowered? Did we make them feel inspired? These are the feelings that we're trying to create. As we end this workshop, I want to leave you with this question: what feeling are you trying to create for your audience? Now we can open up for questions. This is our contact information, our socials. I also included my personal website if anyone wants to follow along with my journey, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you, Emily. This has all been really, really helpful, and especially for me because I'm a photographer and it's like always like trying to like compare myself to others and kind of like not feel insecure about where I am in my journey right now. And all of this has been really like a good time for me to reflect and all of us to reflect on how we can all grow and take the time of taking away that negative energy and putting that into a more sort of reflection type of thing. And so I guess if anyone has any questions or comments, you can post them over here in the chat and I'll read them out. But I do have some questions I would like to ask you while we wait
Yeah,
for
of
the other
course.
questions to come.
Yeah,
And
of
the
course.
first one is, do you have any books or like podcasts or like certain inspirations that you've had in your life that have impacted who you are today?
Yes, I have so many. So one author that I really like, his name is Austin Kleon. He has a book called Show Your Work, and that was the book that I read that actually inspired me to create my own blog. Basically, in Show Your Work, he talks about the importance of documenting your journey, and through this documentation, you learn to find your voice. And so that really propelled me to start my blog and document what it's like to move to a new city and like move to a new city by myself during COVID and take on this new job. So I really like Austin Kleon, and I watch this YouTuber called Ali Abdal. He kind of makes like productivity videos, and I really like him. I get a lot of inspiration from him, and he has a podcast with his brother called Not Overthinking, and they talk about. I think their tagline is like they talk about happiness, creativity, and the human condition, and I don't know, they're just so entertaining while also providing a lot of really great value and content. So, highly recommend Ali Abdal, his podcast, Not Overthinking, and Austin Kleon.
I will definitely check all of those out, and we'll also have, like, a link to all the information you've posted today And so another question I would like to ask you is, what is a lesson that you wish you didn't have to learn the hard way, either when you were searching for a job or when creating Sparkline?
That's a really good question. A lesson I wish I didn't have to learn the hard way. There are a lot of mistakes. Let me try to think back. Um, well, I guess in school, when I was kind of figuring out like what kind of career path I wanted to pursue, I actually started out college on a pre-med track. So I took so many STEM courses for 2 years. It was terrible. I hated it before I switched to HR and more of like the business entrepreneurship side. But that decision took me a really, really long time to make. I was still putting myself through those terrible STEM classes and hated my life. um, and so I just wish I knew that it was okay to make a switch and it's never too late to make a switch. I thought it was way too late for me. I was finishing up my sophomore year. Um, and so I felt a lot of anxiety thinking that other people were so far along in their own careers. And so it took me a really long time to realize that everyone moves at their own pace and that it's never too late to make a change.
I guess, yeah, like a lot of us are like always in that mindset of like comparing ourselves to others, and it's just so like negative, and you can't just like really get anywhere with it, and you just like always feel down. And I guess like having that time of like understanding that everyone's on their own journey and that like your time will come, and maybe this is not right for you right now because this is
Mhm.
not your time. And I guess like just understanding that like everyone's journey is different and their experiences are different based on the journey they have. And actually, we have another question in the chat box. I'm not sure you can see it, but I'll read it to you. And so Ronak is asking, "Hi Emily, thanks for all the great tips. I love Ali as well, inspiration for my desk setup right now. How would you differentiate content for your personal brand or personal website versus content on LinkedIn? I'm thinking about starting a personal website to host a portfolio of projects, but considering a casual blog as well."
Yeah, that's a really good question. So um, I thought about posting or I thought about using LinkedIn as my main like source or channel of communication when I was writing these posts or these blog posts. But I wanted personally for me, I wanted to go a little bit more in depth about my journey. And I feel like LinkedIn, you kind of you're kind of limited in the type of content you can post. And so on LinkedIn, it's something that employers will be looking at. Like my job is to look through LinkedIn all the time for candidates. And so there are certain things that I don't want on my LinkedIn profile. Even though my personal blog or my website is public, you would have to do a bit more digging. And with my personal website, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a personal website. And so I think you should really ask yourself, what kind of content are you going to be creating? So for me on my personal website, of course I also post tips about like productivity, motivation, and like being in the job search, navigating my first job. So that can all be stuff that goes on LinkedIn. But I also talk about other stuff like what it means to be a first generation college student, lessons I've learned from my family, things like that. And those are things that I don't necessarily want to share with my LinkedIn audience. And so it really goes back to who is your target audience and what are you trying to communicate with them? Um, I think it's really great to have a website because you're not limited in what you can post on it, and you have a lot more freedom in making it appeal to your personal brand. So for my website, I took a really long time just to decide the colors. I wanted it to represent who I am. And so I really like the idea of having your own like little corner of the internet because on LinkedIn you can have your profile, but it's not really like yours, you know? So highly recommend having your own website that you can direct people to.
I have another question that I would like to ask while you were
Yeah.
talking about that, and it's kind of like any tips or lessons you have on trying to differentiate like personal life and work life, especially if you are trying to create a social presence online and also have, I guess, like two different things, like a professional life going on, but also like trying to create your own brand and kind of like how do you separate understanding that like my work doesn't define me and it's just a professional life and it's not only my personal life.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's actually something that I'm trying to navigate right now as well because Sparkline, we post a lot of professional content, but I also am trying to develop my own personal brand through my website and um, also really letting other people know that there is a person behind Sparkline or there are people, there's a team behind Sparkline. And so when we are or when I'm trying to differentiate between what I want to post like on Sparkline and what I would want to post personally on whatever channel I choose to post on. Um, I just really think the most important thing is thinking about your target audience. Of course, like your professional life is going to bleed into your personal life because these are all different aspects that make up who you are. But if you find other values outside or other things you're passionate about outside of work, other side hobbies that you're interested in, those are all things that can be added to your personal brand. Those are things that can be posted for your own personal channel. So for you, you said photography was something that you really liked or that you're pursuing. Um, that can be both personal and professional, but depending on what you want to add, like the different type of photography that you want to advertise to other people, can also be a differentiating factor in what you post personally and what you post professionally. But overall, you're still a photographer, whether it is in your personal life or your professional life.
Mhm. I agree with that. And also, we have another question in the chat by Harshini, and I'll read it to you right now. Hi, Emily. Love your energy and all the tips you shared. What are some exciting events that you may have attended in the past to help you connect and learn from the people around this topic?
Mm. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has heard of Wansulting, but they're also, yeah, yeah. So they're also kind of like a career group. They're really big on LinkedIn and other channels too. So they post a lot of really great tips. I'm friends with the co-founder Jonathan, and he has a really great energy, and he posts things like that. And I actually attended an event that they did a couple months ago on personal branding, and it was held by, or it was hosted by the head of global internships at Microsoft. And I didn't know her because we don't work in the same like space. Um, but I found her through a consulting workshop, and she did it on personal branding, and that really like helped me spark my motivation too for personal branding and learning how to develop it. And so I definitely recommend checking out Wansulting. They're really great. Also, I like there's another really great group called Ladder. So they basically they basically have different like communities for whatever you're interested in. There's one called like a creator community, I think, that I'm a part of. It's basically for anyone who's interested in like creating different like anyone who is entrepreneurial and creating their own side projects or ventures, things like that. A lot of really great people on there and they share tips, and I know they just had a event recently too. And then the last one that I can think of off the top of my head, Harshini, I feel like you probably heard of them too, is Tech Pod. Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know Tech Pod, they're really great. They have a ton of events. I also did a personal branding workshop with them, and they provide so many great tips. Follow them all on their socials. So I get a lot of inspiration from those people, but also people or like through YouTubers that I watch, like Ali, or also one thing I really, really like is newsletters. I think everyone should sign up for newsletters because that is pure gold coming straight to your inbox. Like you don't need to do any work. So a couple that I'm subscribed to are Morning Brew, Bloomberg's 5 Things to Start Your Day, just to keep me like in the loop with everything that's going on in the world. And also, I really like Ali Abdal's Sunday Snippets newsletter because I just really value what he says. And I have so many newsletters that I'm subscribed to, but can't remember all of them. If you're interested, send me a message on LinkedIn. We can talk about this. But highly recommend those things. But really, you can get inspiration from anywhere. Like, I get a lot from reading books and YouTube and those newsletters, and also from those different workshops that I've attended. So you really just have to go out and look.
Also, speaking about books, do you have any books that you would like to shout out for us that we should
Yeah.
probably take a look at?
Yeah, so on my website, I have a reading, like what I'm reading tab. So, and it's linked to my Notion page where I like do little book reports on all the books that I'm currently reading. And you can go there for like a more in-depth view of what I'm currently reading, what I've read in the past. But right now, I'm currently reading a book called Make Time, and it's all about productivity and how to make time for what's important in your day. So that's a really good book. I'm also reading Little Fires Everywhere. That's a fiction book. I think it's good. Definitely recommend it. Another book is Show Your Work by Austin Kleon that I mentioned earlier. Trying to think what else there is. Oh, Atomic Habits. I read that like a year or two ago, and I'm going to reread it because I kind of forgot some of the things, but highly recommend Atomic Habits. It's about how to build good habits and get rid of like old bad ones. So they really break James Clear. Oh, his newsletter is really great. James Clear's newsletter is really great for anyone who's interested. But yeah, those are the books I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, we also have a hand raised right now, so Bison, you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to directly talk.
Yeah, I got a
Okay.
question. What do you feel about Twitch streams for like your, let's say your, customers like students or streamers, right? What do you
Mhm.
feel about Twitch streams and using that as like a way to further your personal brand?
Yeah, I think Twitch is a really great way to connect with the audience in a live setting. I personally don't know too much about it, but I know some people who do it do have a really big following and they can really connect with the audience. I know there's this one Twitch streamer. He plays video games, but he's also like a therapist or a psychologist or something. I can't remember his name, but on his streams, he basically brings on people and like talks them through like what's going on. And I don't know. I just think it brings a lot of value because other people who are watching that stream could be like, oh, I'm going through something similar and this is really helpful. And it's helping this person, the streamer, build up his brand of who he is, what he does, and how he's helping other people. So I think it's a really great way to connect with the audience.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess another question that I guess a lot of us want to know is how should we navigate finding mentors in college and also finding mentors once graduating?
Oh my gosh, this is a really great question, and I'm glad that you're asking because or people mentors are just so important. And that reminds me of another book that I read called Who Not How, which is all about like figuring out how other people can help you instead of figuring it all out by yourself. So mentors, it's it's really helpful. I think LinkedIn is a really great place to find mentors. So just do a search for people who are working at your dream companies or people who are on the same career path as you. Um, and bonus points if you find someone who went to UT Dallas because alum are always more than willing to help other people who or other students who graduated from the same school. And so using LinkedIn to build your network and find those mentors. I found a ton of people. I've connected with so many different people, like Juan Solting that I was talking about before. I became friends with the co founder of that through LinkedIn. And so LinkedIn is a really great place to find mentors both during college and after college. And if you are in college, I would take advantage of, not take advantage, but like utilize, oh my gosh, I'm using such bad words, but
Just
like
go for it, just go for it.
leveraging your professors. Um, Something I didn't do when I was in college was whenever I would go to class, I would just go to class, sit, and then leave like right away. And I know it can be really, really tempting and easy to do that, but I think it's so important to build a connection with your professors because they can offer you so much advice and so much guidance on um, what you're currently doing, what you should do later on. And so definitely take advantage of the network that you have as a college student. Um, I know there are a lot of other networks that are available to college students. I would say attend a lot of different events that are held by the school. They always have people, they bring back alum to speak at certain events, things like that. So that is another really great way to build your circle of mentors during college. And then if you, after you get a job, and if you are planning on getting a job and start working at a company, doing coffee chats is a great way to find mentors as well, like within your, both within and outside of your company. Outside of your company, you can use LinkedIn, but most companies have like a directory, an internal directory of all the people who are at the company. So I highly recommend looking at the internal directory and then seeing the people, seeing who's in those roles that you're interested in or in the same space, and networking with those people. And my favorite question to ask when I am networking with other people is asking them if they know someone who would be good for me to speak to after that conversation, because that can lead you to your next coffee chat, your next network, your next mentor, or your next opportunity. And so always asking the person you're networking with whether they know someone in their network that would be a good person to chat, or a good person for you to chat with.
Mhm. That's all really helpful. And I guess since we do have a few minutes left, I guess, is there anything you would like to emphasize to our audience of growing entrepreneurs that they should just focus on in college right now or take the most out of when they're in college?
Sorry, could you repeat the question again? Your voice cut out a little bit for me.
Oh, okay, yeah. I said anything you would like to emphasize while to our audience of growing entrepreneurs that they should make the use out of in college right now, and just any last or like final remarks for our student of growing entrepreneurs.
Yeah, honestly, when you're in college, you have so many different networks and resources available to you. And I really wish I took more initiative when I was in college to seek out those resources that are available to me. When you're a college student, so many people are willing to help you. Just say, hey, I'm working on this, or I want to learn this, and I'm a college student. They'll help you. Um, they were in their shoes, in your shoes once, and really take advantage of the fact that you're still a student, that you're still on this journey to learn. And of course, like when you get a job, you're still on a journey of learning and you're still a student. But it's just so easy to play the I'm a student card and I'm still learning when you're in college. So definitely take advantage of that. Try to seek out all the resources that your college provides you. Like I know a lot of different schools provides free like LinkedIn learning memberships or LinkedIn premium memberships. So try to figure out all of the like things that your school offers you. Um, there was another thing that I forgot, but yeah, so just play the I'm a student card, tell people you're learning, and take advantage of the resources and the network going back to like your professors that are available to you. Um, yeah, I can't remember the other thing, but yeah, I really
We
wanted
can
to
come
stress
back to it, but
that.
I'm definitely gonna use the student card and like, because I feel like I'm always, I guess like all of us are always trying to act like we're the adult or like we have so
Yes.
much experience, but like we're just students, and I guess we need to take like a step back and understand that I guess like we're still on a journey of learning, and
Yeah.
even if we're a student, we're still learning, and even after graduating, we're always going to have to learn, and just kind of understanding that is like
Mhm.
really helpful.
Yeah,
But
exactly. No, I was just agreeing with you.
You're good. We don't have any questions in the chat, but if you guys want to just unmute yourself, you guys can just chat quickly or just connect because we have like 7 more minutes.
I just want to say that playing the college student card has helped so much within the past year and a half. I swear the amount of free things, free events, like people just like are so much nicer, you know? You're not expected to like do so much, but if you just ask curious questions. So I just wanted to add on. But one question for you, Emily, something that I always like to ask people I meet is, what are you excited about learning this year? Like, what are some new things that you really want to grow in, or that you're wanting to kind of? I know you were talking about how you have like these quarter reflections where you're like, okay, where am I, and like, how am I doing on my goals? But this year specifically, what are some things that you're really excited to learn more about, or like fields or topics or anything?
Yeah. So at Microsoft, I'm actually in kind of like a rotational program where in my second year, which is coming up very soon, I transition into a different role. And so right now, I'm trying to like, I'm networking with a bunch of people and figuring out where I want to go for my next role. And something I hear a lot from my mentors about like how to choose that next role is you need to figure out what your thing is. And I'm like, what the heck? That is so vague. So this year, I'm trying to figure out what my thing is, whatever that might be. And so I really want to be able to show up to work excited and passionate about what I'm doing. I don't have to love my job every day, but I want to find a balance between um, enjoying my job and like it doesn't have to be completely I'm in love with my job every single day. So I'm trying to figure out what would be a good balance between that. And I'm also trying to figure out so I recently heard this term called wellness stack. This was actually on an episode of the podcast Not Overthinking by Ali. He did a an episode with the co-founder of Twitch, Justin Khan, and Justin talked about a wellness stack, which is basically just like different methods that you can or different things you can do to boost your overall wellness. So things like meditation, keeping a gratitude journal, things like that, going for walks every day. So right now, I'm trying to figure out different things that work with my life and what I can add to my wellness stack to boost my overall productivity, motivation, and just appreciation of life. So recently, I started going on walks every day, and well, it's only been 2 days, but I'm getting there. So those are the two things that I'm trying to figure out right now that I'm excited to learn about as well.
That's awesome. It's great to hear. I
Thank
love
you.
I'm also
I
curious
do
to know,
those
do you have
walks.
like a pet?
Sorry, I heard two
No,
questions. Or
you're good. Answer her question first.
okay, did you say a
No, no,
pet?
no. Mine was like a comment. Like I was gonna ask if you have any pets that you go on walks with, because like the walks seem so
Oh,
much better when you're with a pet.
no, I thought about getting a dog, but they're a lot of work. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Also, I don't want if I do get a dog, I don't want them to get used to like me being at home all the time and then I go back
Hmm.
into the office and then they're like, where did she go? So yeah.
Because I do the walks too. I think the walks help, but I do mine quite early in the morning. Just like
Mm.
listen to some music or some like audible thing, and like
Yeah.
it helps. Like you just zone out and you just walk, you
Hmm.
know. And then if you see somebody, and especially in Texas, even if you're wearing your mask, they won't wear a mask, so you have to walk across the hall,
Oh,
across the
damn.
street. We live in society.
Yeah, I've noticed the walks have been helping and it just clears my head whenever I come back from a walk and I don't know, I just feel like I appreciate life more, I guess.
Hmm. It's really refreshing. It's like this is. I feel like for me, I feel like whenever I'm on a walk, 'cause I have like a dog, right? I go on a walk with my dog, and I feel like whenever I'm out in the sun, I like feel the sun on me, and it's like healing me, and like the wind is like kind of like hugging me. And I feel like this is the reason why I'm living for like these little small things, like these small walks, or just like having the time to spend with my dog and not like worrying about like the exams I have or like everything outside of like my work life. And I feel like the walks are like the little things in my life that make, I guess, everything seem a little better.
Yeah, I really love that, and I love the way you sounded like a poet, like, honestly. That was really good. That's exactly it. I think it really just gives you a break from everything and puts things
Mhm.
into perspective. So, yeah.
I did have one last question, or if anybody else wanted to add on. So first off, thank you so much for taking the time and just so patiently like explaining, all of this. I know sometimes personal branding or networking can be very, very challenging and overwhelming, especially since so many people are trying to, build themselves up. And like Anchita and you mentioned, we get into this habit of just comparing ourselves and comparing our progress with other people's progress. And so one thing that I want to ask you is on behalf of the club is what can we do for you? Like, how can we help you, right? Whether it's helping grow Sparkline or sharing about it. You've done so much by just helping us right now. So personally, for me, I think I always love asking people that question is like, how can I help you? Because in whatever I have, I would love to, share your message, or if there's anything the club can do on behalf of our members, we'd love to know and just, cheer you on as you go on.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I think right now our one of my biggest priorities is just growing Sparkline and figuring out how I can provide the most value to people like yourself, people who are trying to develop their personal brand, figure out where their careers are going. So, if you guys have any feedback for Sparkline or for even on this personal branding deck, I would really appreciate it if you did shoot us an email or message me on LinkedIn about what we can do to improve or what how else we can provide value to you. I think that would be really, really helpful and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I guess two things to wrap up going off of that. I actually went on the Sparkline Instagram and I really love like the colors and like the aesthetic of the whole like feed. And the second thing is, have you heard of Vanessa Lau on YouTube?
I don't think I've heard of her before. Vanessa Lau.
She's a really big like YouTuber for like growing on social media and like personal branding. I feel like in general to anyone, she's like really helpful and kind of like
Mm-hmm.
getting like into the right mindset and like growing yourself as a business rather than like, kind of like having a separate work life and kind of having a
Mm-hmm.
separate personal life. And I feel like she's definitely like a great resource because she has like a lot of YouTube videos on like growing on social media, growing as a personal brand and stuff like that. And she's also really active on like TikTok and like Instagram and like all these different
Mm-hmm.
socials. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for the suggestion. I'll check her out.
But yeah, that is time. And I just want to, I guess all of us just want to thank you so much for your time today and giving us so much helpful advice and feedback. And your presentation was honestly awesome. The colors, the advice, everything was perfect. And thank you so much for just taking the time to chat with us all today and having such a welcome, like, aura around you. Because, like, most of the times, like, people feel intimidated or like, oh, I can't, like, have these tips in my life because she's, like, so much far ahead of us, ahead of me. But like I feel like for you, you're so relatable and like I can definitely use all of the tips and everything you just said today.
Yeah, I'm really glad. Well, if anyone else does have any other questions, feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to help.
Okay, then I guess we can all start hopping off here. If you guys have more questions, you guys can hang out, but that's it for today.
Okay, awesome. All right, bye guys. So nice seeing
Bye,
everyone.
thank you.